So you joined us from a charity where you were there for 3 years or so, is that right?
Yeah, about that, yeah.
How did they use public relations? Was it something that they did in the first place? And if so, what sort of stuff did they do and how effective do you think it was in terms of the charity trying to achieve the key goals?
Yeah, I think they were starting to use it just before I left a lot more heavily. I think for them, they were already quite well known, so they didn't necessarily feel that PR was needed in terms of raising awareness of who they were. But where they were needing support was with, bigger campaigns, with big donation drives for specific funding. And I think for them, the challenge was, did they have enough capacity to put into the PR to make it work?
It sounds like a classic example of people knowing who the charity is, but not necessarily knowing or understanding what exactly they do with the money that they raise. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's always a challenge for charities is, they're publicly funded. So it's so important to them that they're able to communicate to their donors exactly where that £5 is going.
It's accountability, isn't it?
Oh, exactly. Yeah, they have to be transparent. Yeah.
Okay. So, now you're working for an agency, you're not in-house anymore. How has that experience helped you inform the work, the advice that you do for the charity clients that you're working with now?
I think the main thing is, having been in-house in a charity, you're being pulled in so many different directions all the time. And obviously the most important thing is, your donations and where that money is going. Having had that experience, I'm hoping that I can be a bit more understanding of, for them, they don't need another pressure. They don't need another thing on their plate, but actually, with not a huge amount of effort, they can get a huge amount in return, really. It's no different from a business in that sense. As a business, you need to make sure that whatever you're doing is going to improve your profitability. And it's the same for a charity. It's just that in that case, it's to improve, how much they can fund. So I think, it's improving the communication of what PR actually is and ensuring that for them, they can see the value of it. It's not an extra strain on their already very, very full plate.
Do you think they understand what PR is and what it can do for them? Because they've got so many promotional tools at their disposal. They've got traditional advertising in print, online, TV, radio, that kind of thing. They've got events, they've got direct marketing, email campaigns that they can be doing as well. Where do you think PR fits into that?
I think the main thing is, having been, especially a smaller charity, when you hear the word PR, a lot of the time you do think about these big advertising campaigns, these massive corporate PR campaigns or projects, which are really successful. But I think in a small charity, it feels like that's out of your range. But there are also much smaller, PR tools that can be used even just in the local media. We can do a lot more to improve that messaging, really, because it's not out of charities' reach at all.
Are there any notable PR campaigns that you've seen over the years that still, even though the campaign may well and truly finished, that still stick with you, that resonate with you?
Yeah, there's a few. I think the two that really stick out are is the breast cancer campaign, Copper Fill, which is basically encouraging women to check their breasts for breast cancer. That was a long time ago. People still talk about it. It was really simple. It was one message, but also it was just having something that was so simple and everyone understood who the charity was straight away. It was a call to action, just one call to action for everyone. So I think that was hugely effective. And then the more recent one, the Women's Aid around the World Cup.
Oh, yes.
Where it was a English flag on a billboard saying he's coming home. I think a lot of people came across those billboards. Their messaging campaign was just really simple, literally just that flag and those words. And it's almost like they didn't have to explain. It wasn't a billboard with loads of writing saying about exactly what they do and why it's important. They managed to encapsulate it all in one image. It's not some flashy, glossy, magazine. It doesn't need to be like that. It's just a message about what they do. So, I think simplicity more than anything for charity campaigns.
That kind of leads on really in terms of what makes a successful PR campaign. Have you got Any thoughts on that from a charity perspective?
I think it's about, well, it's the same with any PR campaign. It's about really understanding what the charity, one, does, and two, their aim for the next 5 to 10 years. It's really digging into, for them, every day they're having to prioritize. So I think it's the same, with a PR campaign. It's finding out exactly what it is that they are striving to do. What are they struggling with? What is their main aim? For charities, it's always going to be a mix between getting donations in, raising awareness, and also future-proofing, the business. Yeah. And then obviously it's all the stuff that comes with that, making sure that you're getting the audience right. If you've got a small local charity, yes, okay, national coverage will be great, but also do the local newspapers talk about them? Does the local media talk about them? Have they been on the radio? All those, if their donor base, if you look at their donor base and the majority of them are local, that's what you should be, helping them to reach.
Because there's a temptation, isn't it, to go for national?
Yeah. Which, is never going to be harmful at all. But I think, the power of local media is huge, especially for things like donations.
What concerns do you think charities might have if they're considering utilising the services of a PR agency, or if they've got the in-house resource to do it? What factors do they need to consider above and beyond what you've already talked about? Are there any fears that they have?
Yeah, I think there's a huge amount of fear in charities around talking to the media, and blowing their trumpet too much. I think charities are often very humble about what they do. When you look at kind of a big corporate entity, they're quite happy to do PR around what they do, even if it's not the most interesting always. Whereas I think charities, you try and get them to kind of promote themselves, and they're very much not wanting to be, really promotional, not really, blowing their own trumpet, really. And because they're publicly funded, I think, they're more conscious than anyone of what the public think, and their image and their reputation. And, absolutely fair enough. We've seen, lots of PR disasters in the charity world. But I think the key thing is that, it's about their cause more than anything. And, you don't have to go stand there and talk in front of a camera about how great your charity is. All you need to talk about is the cause. That's the whole point of what you're doing. There needs to be a bit of an education piece there from PRs about, this isn't going to be, you're not going to be thrown under the bus. You're not going to be suddenly having to answer really tricky questions. That's where we can support you.
Excellent. Is there anything else that you would add in terms of advice for any charity considering undertaking a PR campaign, whether doing it themselves or using a PR agency? Is there anything that you should, one nugget of advice you would give to them when considering that?
I think just if you are considering it, speak to a PR agency and just get that initial feel of, I think it's very important going into those situations to understand, what resource do you have at the moment? What do you think is the most important thing to be talking about with your charity? What is your focus for the next 5 years? And then I think it is really just more of a human thing of, just talk to them, see if there's that fit. With any agencies, there's that fear that it's going to be impersonal, that they're going to be, a massive office of people, and they are just people, and, they have the time to have that human connection with you. And you know what it's like. Sometimes it will just fit and they just get you. And I think that's the thing for charities. They want someone that really gets what they do and is just an extension of them, really. They just have more time on their hands and, a better view of the whole media landscape. Being an agency, we know what's happening in other sectors too, which is really important, I think, for the messaging. So, I think it's about that fit, really, with their mission.
Great.